Next, let's take a look at a sample Prodigy activity. So remember, this is the adaptive quizzes on Manga High. Questions get harder progressively to help your students elevate or scaffold their learning. But more importantly, it's important for us to be able to explain to our students how the questions get harder and therefore setting them on the right path to success. Because it's adaptive, we want our students to attempt each task at least 3 times and progressively move on to the harder level questions. But also important to help your students understand the importance of using their mistakes to help them grow. So checking their mistakes, learning from their mistakes before re-attempting it a second or a third time, and progressively move on from the easy questions and eventually get up to the hard and extreme questions. Now, how do you locate these activities on Manga High? So in the previous video, we looked at assigning tasks, which you can do. You can locate tasks using a search term or the filter, or you can simply go through the curriculum folder, which I'm going to do today. So as a teacher, what you will do is you are able to either assign the activities, or you could even preview the activities before you decide to assign it to your students. So at this point, assign the activities as we've seen before, or you can click play so you get to preview or play the activities before you can assign it to your students. I'll also show you how to pick up an activity that you have assigned already so that you could preview it as a class-based activity so you can use it as an introductory topic for your students as well, or as a way of introducing a topic for your students. So notice how, because it's the first time I've clicked into this activity, I'm starting at the easy level. Now, this will be exactly the same experience as your students. So some students might progress from the easy levels quite quickly. Some students might take a little while longer and they stay at the easy level questions for a lot longer before they move on to medium and hard and extreme. So it automatically adapts for your students. Now I'm going to turn the ping sound off. Notice how I am doing an easy question, as I mentioned. Identify the obtuse angles. Okay, so we will look at, this one here. Okay. Notice also, even though we're doing an easy level question, the questions tend to be asked in slightly different ways. And there is also somewhat of a hint at the beginning of the question before asking you to answer. Okay, so we're looking at the acute angle and we know that's between 0 and 90. Okay. And yet another easy question. We're now looking for an obtuse angle. It shows you a hint of what 90 degrees and 180 degrees looks like. Okay. Once we've done that, we click submit. What type of angle is marked below? That's an obtuse angle. And as you can see, the hint has dropped away and now you're really starting to challenge ourselves. Okay, so that's a reflex angle. What is 237? That's greater than 180. And because we got 3 medium questions right, we now are up to the hard question, which is our 7th question. Now I'm going to deliberately get this question wrong just so that you can see what happens when we do indeed get questions wrong. So notice that if I get 2 hard questions wrong, I've moved back down to medium. So the rule is 3 in a row correct to move up to the next level, and 2 in a row incorrect to move back down to the previous level. Now the reason why that's important is because we don't want our students to just keep guessing their answers. And it's really hard to guess 3 in a row correct. And you'll also notice that even from the very first question, when you're doing this in class, each student get a slightly different combination of questions as well. So even if they get up to their 10th question, they come back and do the work again, they're going to get a slightly different combination of questions or the order of the questions. So so by the time we award our students with a medal or a pass mark, we're pretty confident that they haven't actually quite hacked the system to try and get that award. Okay, so at the end of 10 questions, what your students see is whether or not they've achieved a medal. So there are 3 medals your students can earn when they're on Manga High, either a bronze, a silver or a gold, and it's based on the number of points they have earned. So in this case, we've earned 2,700 points, but we needed 4,200 to get to a bronze standard. Now, just a bit of a tip, your students actually need to answer at least 3 hard questions right to even have a chance of getting a bronze medal. And if you then challenge yourself to get to a silver medal, that means you need to answer your hard questions as well as a significant number in your extreme questions. So kind of between hard and extreme questions is silver. And to get a gold medal, you actually need to answer all 10 extreme questions correct, okay, to get up to the 14,000 points. Now, I said earlier, we really expect our students to attempt each task at least 3 times and progressively grow towards those hard and extreme questions. So in this case, what tends to happen with students is they simply go, click play again. But the reality is they haven't learned anything new yet. We've just done one round of Prodigy and we've identified that we're okay with the easy questions. We can manage the medium questions, but we really struggled at the hard questions. So the best thing to do at the moment is, as part of helping your students change their relationship with mistakes, we want them to click into their mistakes. We want them to say, okay, well, that's the question I couldn't answer. Click on Show Solution and write it down in their book. We want them to start collecting mistakes in their book so that one, they start changing their relationships. It's okay. They also understand where mistakes actually fit into their entire learning journey. So the idea here is write down what was the question asking, how do you solve the problem, so the proposed solution, and why did you get it wrong? Did we misunderstand what the question was asking? That sort of reflection really helps your students learn, and it really encourages your students to think about how mistakes is a moment of learning rather than a punishment, if you wish. Okay, so write it down in your book. Go back to results, move on to the next mistake. So collect your mistakes, click on Show Solution, and so forth and so on. Once you've done that, go back to your results, and now you're ready to click play again. So when your students click play again, the system will remember where they finished. So because we finished at medium, it's going to start you at medium, and therefore, as you can now see, attempt it 3 times to progressively move up to the hard, then extreme levels. If you then can get 3 hard questions right, you manage to get a bronze medal. Here's an example of one of our growth mindset workflow poster. And on the poster, it actually explains to students how to get to a bronze, a silver, or gold medal. So there are 3 medals your students can collect on an activity. Okay, so a bronze medal, as I mentioned earlier, you need to get at least 3 hard questions right in order to earn about 4,200 points to get to a bronze standard. From there, your students can challenge themselves further, so play again, and try and get your hard questions correct and move on to your extreme questions. And that will give them a silver medal. If they then want to push themselves further and earn the ultimate gold medal, then aim to reattempt the task and aim to get all 10 extreme questions correct. So what I would suggest is to get your students to understand how to be successful at Manga High. So getting them to set that positive habit or positive workflow habit in order to get them to a point where they know what they need to do to be successful. And I would say the most important thing is to encourage your students to review their mistakes and then putting their mistakes back into practice in order to get them to that hard and extreme level questions. And that's a big difference. We find that students who use their mistakes versus those students who don't use their mistakes, there's a very big difference between their pass mark. Now, as a teacher, in order to build this mistake or build this expectation for your students, what you can do is actually go into your school assignments and find some of the activities that you have already assigned to your students. So let's just say we're looking at class 8A in this example. Find the activity. The first thing you notice is this is the activity you've set for your students. No one has attempted it yet. And let's just say it is, the start of the year and your students are brand new to the whole Manga High experience. Pick up the activity, click on info and click play. And that way you open up or fire up that activity on the board and go through exactly what we've gone through together. Show your students how the questions get harder, number 1. 2, show your students that they need to answer 3 in a row questions correct and move up to the next level, and that there are 3 medals that they need to achieve in order to pass the activity. So they need to answer at least 3 hard questions right in order to get to a bronze medal, but from there they can then elevate themselves towards a silver or a gold medal. Also, deliberately get a couple of questions wrong. So make sure you do what we did earlier, which is get a couple of questions wrong so that you can show them what you do with mistakes. And that's very, very important. Okay, so click play, opens up that activity, and keeping in mind that just because you've run through this activity on the board doesn't mean that when they go ahead and click play on their screen, they're going to see the same questions. Because remember, the combination of questions will change from one student to another, from one play to another, and of course from the teacher play to the student play, it will look quite different as well. And one very last thing before I go, let's take a look at some examples of reports that you'll be looking at as your students complete the activities. So in the next round of tutorials, we will actually go through, at the intermediate level, we will actually go through a good deep dive into the data and analytics that's available to you. But I just want to give you a brief introduction now. So the first thing you see when you click on reports is that there are 5 different reports, or 5 main reports that you'll expect to see. The assignments report, which gives you a tracking of how many of the assignments you have actually set for your students, how many of it has been passed. And at the moment, I'm looking at the whole school, by the way, so you can click into it and look at individual classes. But let's just stick with the whole school for now. You can also see a curriculum focus progression. So every class should have a curriculum focus that's already set for them. And as the year progresses, you should be able to track your students' progress towards 100% completion. And in this case, we also have achievements, which gives you a total tally of how many bronze, silver, and gold medal your students have achieved, in this case throughout the school. And one of the things I always look for when I look at the achievements report is that balance between the bronze and the gold. Okay, so I'd like to talk to teachers about building a gold culture in your school. But remember, if you are brand new, it's just all about passing. But once you're ready to elevate and really step up your use, then we want to start changing the culture at the school. The amount of effort, so the amount of time your students have put into the platform, as well as any independent or additional activities above and beyond those that you have assigned for them that your students have completed. For the purpose of today, I really want us to focus on the assignments report. So the very first thing we do is to click into reports and click into assignments. Now select the class that you're working with. If you already have the class selected, this is the step that you skip. But most importantly, I want to show you the grid view because it is a little bit hidden, but it is also a bit of a gem for teachers as well. Okay, so when you click on grid view, you can see an overview of how your students have progressed through all of the activities that you have assigned for them. A couple of things we can notice as a trend initially is here's an activity that most students have either not attempted or have not been successful at, even though they've attempted it. So X means that they have not been successful. A minus simply means that they have not even attempted the task. And of course, a medal earned means that they have passed the activity and the medal that they have earned for that past activity. Okay, so as a teacher, the first thing we notice is the percentage pass rate. So in this case, the first student here, 44% percentage pass rate, even though 9 out of 9 activities has already been attempted. You can also click on individual students' names and you can track and see which activities they have passed, which activities they have not passed. You can also click into an activity. So click on the diagonal part of the activity title. And from here, a couple of things you can do. You can look at overall class results. You can also see, you can also reassign the activity for your students, or perhaps even bring it up, click on info, bring it up and click play for your students. So it's really important that as a teacher, you understand that 1, the assignments activities or the assignments report exists, and 2, you know how to get there because it is a little bit hidden. So just as a recap, remember it allows you to preview or get an overview of how your students are progressing. And the way you access it is by clicking on the assignments report, and in this little blue ribbon or tab, just click on show grid view. Okay, that's it from me for now. So enjoy the next few questions for the quiz, and thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the intermediate module.